The world stage is a complex arena, where alliances shift and tensions simmer beneath the surface. International politics is rarely calm, and recent events unfolding across continents have significantly heightened global tensions. These events demand our attention and careful analysis. Against this backdrop of escalating global uncertainty, former US President Donald Trump has issued a stern warning directly to Russian President Vladimir Putin, a warning laden with implications for international relations. The former president didn't mince words, saying Putin was playing with fire. This pointed message, initially delivered in late 2024 and reiterated with renewed emphasis in March 2025, signals a notable shift, perhaps even a hardening, in Trump's rhetoric towards the Russian leader. The immediate context for this warning is, of course, the ongoing war in Ukraine, a devastating conflict causing immense suffering to the Ukrainian people and simultaneously threatening global stability on multiple fronts. Trump's warning followed a series of new threats emanating from various international bodies and proposals being debated for even tougher economic measures designed to further isolate Russia. The phrase "playing with fire" is not just a casual remark, it suggests a dangerous game, a high-stakes gamble with potentially catastrophic consequences for all involved and indeed for the entire world. So, the critical question is, why now? Trump's timing in issuing this stark warning inevitably raises a number of important questions, particularly about the future trajectory of global power dynamics and the evolving landscape of international relations. This isn't simply political posturing or empty rhetoric. It's a clear signal that the stakes in this geopolitical game are incredibly high, perhaps higher than they have been in decades. Therefore, understanding the nuances of this warning is absolutely crucial, as the decisions made in the coming weeks and months could profoundly impact people far beyond the immediate borders of Ukraine. So, let's delve deeper and explore the chain of events that led to this critical moment, and carefully consider what it could ultimately mean for the future of the world we all share. The war in Ukraine grinds on, a relentless and devastating conflict that has reshaped the geopolitical landscape. The fighting continues with no end in sight, leaving a trail of destruction and despair. Despite numerous attempts, there's been no diplomatic breakthrough in sight. All efforts to find a peaceful resolution have so far been met with resistance and impasse. The negotiating table remains empty, a stark reminder of the deep divisions and lack of trust between the warring parties. In late 2024, Russia escalated the conflict dramatically by launching a nuclear-capable missile into Ukraine. This act sent shockwaves across the globe, raising fears of a wider and even more devastating war. This was a clear and unmistakable warning to the West, a signal of Russia's willingness to take extreme measures to achieve its objectives. The message was received loud and clear by Western powers, prompting urgent discussions and reassessments of their strategies. President Putin further ratcheted up tensions by announcing new intermediate-range missile strikes, a move that significantly altered the strategic balance in the region. This escalation raised the stakes further, pushing the conflict into uncharted territory and increasing the risk of miscalculation and unintended consequences. Experts like James Acton say these moves are deliberate signals intended to discourage Western support for Kiev, aiming to weaken Ukraine's resolve and force it to the negotiating table on Russia's terms. CIA Chief Bill Burns underscored the seriousness of this nuclear signaling, emphasizing the potential for catastrophic consequences if the situation continues to spiral out of control. Diplomatic efforts have stalled completely, with Putin steadfastly refusing direct talks with Ukrainian President Zelensky, further complicating any path towards de-escalation. Putin questions Zelensky's legitimacy due to postponed elections under martial law, a move that has further eroded trust and made dialogue even more difficult. Meanwhile, the US has responded by expanding military aid to Ukraine, providing crucial support to bolster its defenses against Russian aggression. The conflict is now a complex web of failed diplomacy, a tangled mess of broken promises and missed opportunities. It's characterized by military escalation and mounting threats that hang heavy over the region and the world. Trump's recent "playing with fire" remark lands with particular weight in this already dangerous context, highlighting the fragility of the situation. The world watches with bated breath as the risk of miscalculation grows exponentially, threatening to plunge the world into an even deeper crisis. The stakes for Ukraine, and indeed for the entire global order, have never been higher. demanding careful consideration and responsible action from all parties involved. Trump's recent warning marks, without a doubt, a sharp shift, a noticeable departure from his earlier, much more accommodating stance toward Putin. A stance that was often perceived as unusually friendly, even admiring, by many observers. As president, during his time in office, Trump was often criticized and faced considerable scrutiny for his apparent admiration of Putin and his well-documented skepticism of NATO, the cornerstone of Western defense. Now, this tougher rhetoric, this more assertive tone, has surprised many, raising significant questions about his underlying motives and the true intentions behind this shift. Is this a strategic move carefully calculated to reassert U.S. influence on the global stage? Or is it a genuine, heartfelt response to Russia's recent actions and escalating aggression? Some see it quite simply as an attempt to pressure Russia through strong words, back to the negotiating table for constructive dialogue. Allies may very well welcome a stronger U.S. voice, a more decisive stance from Washington, but others, understandably, worry about the potential for unpredictability and sudden policy reversals. Trump's foreign policy throughout his career has often been marked by sudden changes and unexpected pronouncements, complicating global strategy and leaving allies and adversaries alike struggling to anticipate his next move. Whether this new, tougher tone is merely temporary, a fleeting moment, or a lasting shift in his approach to Russia and foreign policy in general remains to be seen, and only time will tell. But when Trump speaks bluntly and directly about Putin, especially in such a changed manner, the world invariably pays attention, hanging on every word and analyzing each syllable. His words, regardless of their intent, have the potential to reshape international relations and alter the geopolitical landscape, regardless of his official status or current position within the political arena. Alongside his warning, Trump proposed secondary tariffs on Russian oil, a move with global implications. These tariffs would penalize not just Russia but also countries like India and China that buy Russian oil. The goal cut off a vital source of funding for Moscow's war effort. By threatening penalties for buyers, Trump aims to make Russian oil less attractive and squeeze Russia's economy. This is a bold escalation in economic pressure, targeting not just adversaries but also major global partners. Secondary sanctions aren't new, but applying them to global oil markets would be unprecedented. The message trading in Russian oil could come with a steep financial cost. Even the threat of such tariffs creates uncertainty in global energy markets. If secondary tariffs were imposed, the impact would be global. Russia could lose key customers, dealing a heavy blow to its economy and war funding. The global oil market would face disruption, likely driving up prices worldwide. Countries like India and China would have to choose between cheap Russian oil and U.S. penalties, straining diplomatic ties. Higher energy costs could fuel inflation, squeezing household budgets everywhere. The interconnected global economy means decisions in Washington affect families from London to Manila. The ripple effects would be widespread and deeply felt. The world's energy and economic stability hang in the balance. Trump's warning and threat of secondary tariffs have sparked fierce debate. Supporters argue that only a tough stance can deter Russian aggression and force Moscow to reconsider. They see directness and economic pressure as necessary to change the Kremlin's calculus. Critics, however, warn that such rhetoric could provoke escalation, not restraint. There are fears of a wider conflict or even nuclear miscalculation. Others worry about damaging relations with key partners like India and China and destabilizing global energy markets. The debate is deeply polarized, with both sides citing risks and potential rewards. Experts warn that escalatory cycles are dangerous and hard to control. The world is divided on whether Trump's approach is bold leadership or reckless brinkmanship. The future is uncertain and the stakes are enormous. Will Trump, if back in office, follow through on these threats, or are they just rhetoric? Russia, Ukraine, and U.S. allies are recalibrating their strategies in response. Even the threat of drastic policy shifts creates instability and influences global behavior. The risk of miscalculation between nuclear powers is real. Disruptions to energy markets and trade could affect economies and households worldwide. For Ukraine, the outcome could mean survival or further suffering. The world is navigating a period of intense geopolitical flux. Decisions made now will shape the international order for years to come. One thing is certain, the consequences will be far-reaching, and the world is watching.